coming into agriculture, being new, anyone who has a desire and a will to want to engage into Mother Nature's nature, especially when it comes to forests, if they desire to do so, they can do the same and transition and transform sites. And I think that's just wonderful.
Welcome to the Roots to Resilience podcast, a series highlighting the powerful stories and transformative efforts defining the past, present, and future of African American land ownership. I'm Bethany Wilkinson, your host and executive director of the Sustainable Forestry and African American Land Retention Network. At the SFLR Network, we are committed to empowering African American landowners through education, advocacy, and sustainable forestry practices that protect generational land, foster economic resilience, and honor the rich cultural heritage tied to the land. This series will take you on a journey through 8 sites across our network, uncovering the stories, challenges, and triumphs that define our mission. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Clarence Bunch from the Small Farm Institute at Prairie View A&M University in Texas. Dr. Bunch has spent decades working in agricultural conservation, landowner education, and community outreach, and he's been instrumental in expanding forestry support for African American landowners in East Texas. As the newest of the SFLR network sites, Dr. Bunch and his team are offering new opportunities for sustainable land management for landowners in the region. Let's dive into the conversation. Hi, Dr. Bunch. Welcome.
Well, hello, Bethany. Glad to be here.
How are you?
I'm just fine. And how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Would you please introduce yourself?
My name is Clarence Bunch. I am the project manager here at Prairie View A&M University, Small Farm Institute.
Great. And can you tell us about your professional journey before joining Prairie View A&M University?
I am a graduate of Langston University, where I have my BS degree, and I have my PhD in leadership and change from Antioch McGregor University. When I graduated from Langston University in 1990, I actually started working for the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service. So after 25 years of working for the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service, I came to Prairie View as a Ag and Natural Resources Program leader. And then in 2023, of course, I moved over into research to work within CARC, which is the Cooperative Agriculture Research Center. I had actually evolved to create the Small Farm Institute.
So what is the mission of Prairie View's Small Farm Institute?
Our mission has been really to provide good research-based information to individuals who own land, who are aspiring to continue to build and grow that land through the technical and assistance that we provide to them. And research is one thing, education another thing, training is really a very big piece. And so that's been my passion, is that how can I help them to be sustainable?
Mm-hmm. Can you describe how does the Institute connect with and support the local farmers?
It's an outreach arm which looks at both research as well as financial kind of an assistance with them in the training. How do we help producers through this realm of research, but how do we help them through the way of financial? And so the educational programming that we've been working through or trying to do has been a part of that focus of what we're doing. As of today, we have over 300 members who's a part of the Institute, but people that we work with in general is more than that as a whole. But we also, as an institute, of course, we have the privilege of our research. So the demand is high. I'm trying to make sure I have resources, capacity to manage. But in the meantime, the institute uses specialties. So I have like a forest consultant. I have a livestock consultant. I have heirs, attorneys, all these people who work with me through the program services. And this is how we service the people to make sure they get the assistance that they need to have.
Okay. I mean, you've done so many things over the course of your career. I'm curious to know, as we start thinking about East Texas specifically, why was there historically a lack of forestry services for African American producers in East Texas?
You're the first person who has asked that kind of a question. And I think that perhaps the understanding of the value of the forest aspect was really an oversight. So when I came in 2019, of course, Prairie View had not done any work at all with forest landowners. Prairie View had over 13,000 African American farmers. And so about 3,000 of those who were forest landowners at that point in East Texas. And prior to 2019, they had done no work there from a standpoint of outreaching and connecting to the needs of the African American farmers there. And so, but in 2019, when I arrived, the SFLR was brought to my attention, and I realized from my assessment that the neglect that had taken place. And then as I began to dove into that, I thought that the program was befitting for us to engage into. I think we became a part of the SFLR in 2020, sometime in 2020. And then after, we've been working with them ever since. But it's like, how can they have been forgotten? We're talking about trees that's been there for years, and no services or assistance was provided in that particular landscape area.
Yeah. Can you speak to some of the systemic barriers that have prevented African American landowners from accessing USDA services? Like, what are some of those systemic barriers from your point of view?
For the most part, it's twofold. Many of the, I think, African Americans just did not trust the USDA system. In other words, they thought that perhaps it was just another way to try to take advantage and to take land from them, I believe. Secondly, I think that you're talking about the education component, that in many cases, I don't think that the producers seen the value of it from that perspective to say that that should be a need or desire to really partake or, be persistent with that. And so I think as a result of those factors, the lack of desire to be a part of became very permanent. And you hear that term all the time, they don't trust the agencies. And so, but there's a lot of experiences I've heard whereby that many of, and I don't mean to say this bad about USDA in our sense, because I used to work for them, because I think they're a great organization. But many of the local employees, I would say local, not organization as a whole, but local employees were biased because of culture, because of politics locally. So therefore, they chose, in many cases, not to reach out and to share with African Americans in regards to their potential, reference to what they can obtain and so forth. And so I think that as time went on, a combination of not trusting and then not being informed, and then the agency not reaching out, it really hindered them from being able to participate in the programs. I think a combination of those two.
Do you have any stories of landowners who have been positively impacted by the SFLR program in East Texas? Any specific landowner stories?
There are a lot of landowners I have worked with, and they sometimes vary. The question becomes, what is my definition of success? I think of Jackie. She is a landowner. She had power of attorney. She works very closely with her family. She invited me to come. I know in one of the beginning meetings that they had the family come in. So I went there to speak, to talk a little bit about the SFLR program and share with them about the services and what the program benefits are, in relationship to the technical assistance or reference to, and how the education outreach we can do with them as well. And so I remember attending there with the family, and I was so impressed with how she had invested the time with them. And so the success for them is that I seen a family come together whereby they're all on the same accord about the future, and allowing her to help make decisions for that direction that we're going, because this is what's best. And so as we looked at forest management planning with her, I know I paid through one of my programs to provide some clearing to be done as a demonstration for others. We did some clearing out on the site. We talked to them about, from a forest management standpoint, what are your goals for the family? Are we going to look at this being a recreational kind of facility in the site area, maybe hosting it or using it for maybe a future for others to be able to rent, utilize the site? So we talked about those sort of things that we were engaging with them into. And I remember that we also had an attorney to come. So the attorney came in as well and kind of shared with them about where they were at in reference to the wheel structuring. And so he was giving them updates about where they're at, timing and so forth, additional information they need to have. And so it was powerful. And if they continue that direction, they're going to continue to achieve. And so I just coming into agriculture, being new, I thought was like that means that anyone who has a desire and a will to want to engage into Mother Nature's nature, especially when it comes to forests and forest management, if they desire to do so, they can do the same and transition and transform sites. And I think that's just wonderful.
Yeah, that's great. And as we've talked to different people across the network, it really, for the landowners, so much of it does come down to that dedication, that willingness to learn, to try new things, and to go find the resources you need to make your land work for you and make it work for your family. So you've organized over 30 workshops for landowners. What topics are most in demand among the landowners attending these workshops?
It all depends on which workshop. There's so many. We'll talk about the forest workshops. So when we've done these outreach workshops with them, many of the questions, everybody wants how do I get there now? And one of the things I shared with them was this. I said, we have to understand that they are landowners that have forest land. Many of them are not forest landowners. In other words, those who have grown up in the aspect of managing trees. They don't have that kind of knowledge, but we have landowners that hold and have forest land. And then trying to teach them, so it become two different educational focuses. How do we teach them who has land that has forest on it to be beneficial for them? And then how we advance with those who are forest owners who need to understand management now. They don't need to know the basics. It's not the basics they're interested in. It's now the advanced element of the technology that's more critical for them. So we find then that a lot of the questions that have always been centered around that was the fact that they have not known. And I shared this with NRSS. So NRSS technical people say, yeah, they don't know. They don't know. They don't have a good understanding of the forest system. I said, no, they don't. But this is why we have to teach them. And then hopefully we can have them pass this down to the generation if they're planning on keeping it, so the next generation can understand. I said, because when they planting these trees, it's going to be 20 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road before they can potentially think about, all depends on what they're planting, harvesting some of that. I said, so you come out, huge gap cycles. I said, but in between that time, is where I think we have failed, I would say, because in between that time is what do we do to generate excitement and we say economic wealth building in that space. So whether that's from a recreational standpoint that needs to be in place, it could be hunting, it could be leasing for seasonal type of events, but using the land to benefit and earn income for them, the family, even in between that time.
Yeah. So I want to switch gears a little bit to ask you more about your own experience of your work. What has been the most rewarding aspect of your role at Prairie View A&M University?
I often tell people this. I think that the most important thing for me is if I can help another. So if I am able to help someone to get to the next space, I'm happy. So, the helping could be, I could give you information that you didn't know. I can connect you to people you have not had. I can show you a direction that you need to direct and get, or I can show you how to receive. And so I'm helping you along the way. And then in this case here, through the network, I can provide. And so economics. And so that helps you along your way as well. So if I can help them, that's where my joy comes from. It's being an instrument. If I can't help you, then it's not about me, because the truth is that, as I often tell people, I work hard, and people think I work hard because I love this job. I work hard because it's just like Peter Vale said, it's just a way of being. You wake up in the morning like an ant, and you don't stop until it's night like an ant. You just work, and it's not a thought process of I'm loving it. It's a thought process of, am I making a difference? And so it's, purpose, What's called wrote the book, The Purpose-Driven Life. And so I'm like, it's the purpose. My purpose is to do what I'm supposed to do. And so I'm not happy because of the job. I'm just happy because I'm doing. And so that's my thing.
No, that's great. I'm curious to know, how can other institutions replicate Prairie View's success in supporting underserved landowners?
I was at the AFF, the American Forest Foundation. They came in 2022. And so I had to do a presentation, share with them what we're doing. And so after I finished, I can't remember his name, the director asked me, he said, Dr. Bunch, he said, what you just shared with us in regards to how you are having an impact on the things you're doing with the producers in the state of Texas through the program, he said to me, how are you doing that? Because we want to be able to replicate what you're doing. So when I came, I connected with all of the agricultural community-based organizations at that point in time. And I pulled them all in, set them all down, talk about the objective, talk about the goal, talk about where we're going, and those that has special strengths. If you're livestock, then you're my guru for livestock. If you're in forestry, you're my guru for forestry. So I had them all together as one, but I had them all together as an agricultural focus group as we were pushing forward, and they all had buy-in. And when they had buy-in, that allowed the institute to expand and then have really reputable relationship with people in the communities.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Bunch. As a final question, I'd like to know how being part of the SFLR network has impacted the work you do at the Small Farm Institute.
In all honesty, if it had not been for the SFLR program, we wouldn't be working with forest landowners. So the direct contact or the direct impact the network has done is that it has brought the initiative to Texas. But before then, we had not worked with the forest landowners, African-American forest landowners, none whatsoever. But if it had not been for the SFLR, then we would not be working with the forest landowners here. So I think that by the network emerging the way it did and reaching out and opening up for Texas to have that opportunity, and Prairie being the ones to be a part of that, we're very appreciative and thankful of that. So it was the network. If it wasn't for the network, we wouldn't be working with these producers. So it's been very, very influential and pivotal for us here in the state of Texas.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bunch, for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Bethany, for inviting and for listening. So I wish the network, as always, much success.
Thank you. That's a wrap on today's conversation with Dr. Clarence Bunch. His passion for land stewardship and commitment to empowering underserved farmers highlights the critical work being done at Prairie View A&M's Small Farm Institute. From expanding forestry services to addressing systemic barriers in agriculture, his leadership is paving the way for a more sustainable and equitable future for landowners. That's all for this episode with Dr. Clarence Bunch. Until next time, thank you for listening to Roots to Resilience. Roots to Resilience is a sustainable forestry and African American land retention network podcast. Our senior producer is Ivana Tucker. Our engineers are Asia Simpson and Jacob Winnick. Our executive producers are Melise Toussaint and Eliza Smith. This podcast was produced in collaboration with Cascade Advisory and Cosmic Standard. For more information about our work at SFLR Network, check us out at sflrnetwork.org and be sure to sign up for our email newsletter. Special thanks to our network sites and to the American Forest Foundation for supporting the podcast. This material is also based upon work supported by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Any opinions, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this publication are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the views of the U.S. Department of Agriculture or of our other sponsors. In addition, any reference to specific brands or types of products or services does not constitute or imply an endorsement for those products or services. I'm your host, Bethany Wilkinson, signing out.